All right, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. And more importantly, happy International Youth Day 2016. How's everybody feeling? So, it has been an exciting day so far. There have been events taking place all over the globe celebrating the positive role that young people are playing in communities and countries the world over to tackle some of our most pressing challenges, from terrorism to climate change to peace and security to inclusiveness. It's helping to reshape the perception of young people as partners for peace and sources of solutions rather than drivers of conflict. And even President Obama put out his first ever statement commemorating International Youth Day earlier this morning. So while it's time to celebrate just a bit, it's also time to be a little more reflective about the world as it is today. It's a time to be honest about the challenges that we face. And it's a time to be open about our fears and insecurities that often hold us back from taking the action necessary to create the world as it could be. A world where the lottery of birth, where you were born, who you were born to, doesn't determine your prospects in life. A world where the color of your skin and the God that you may believe in matters less than the content of your character. A world where young people feel truly connected to one another and empowered to take action on the issues that they care about. So at this awe-inspiring podium, in this historic UN General Assembly Hall, in this hallowed Emerald UN building, rather than do a speech, let's call ourselves to action. Let's call ourselves to action to unlock our individual voices, to break down the walls between us, and to turn our collective voices into a thundering symphony of youth activism that tackles the pressing challenges of the day. Let's call ourselves to action to embrace the power we have as young people to transform the world that we were born into. Now, we all have our hang-ups that prevent us from utilizing our voice, from connecting with each other, and from taking action. There is this incredible force out there that can paralyze us, stop us in our tracks, and lead to insecurity and ultimately inaction. And that powerful force is fear. Fear that we might fail, fear that we might get hurt, fear that we might look stupid, fear that people might not like us. So as the world comes together to commemorate this year's International Youth Day, it's my hope that all of us, the largest generation that the world has ever seen, feel more empowered to overcome our fears so that our voices can be unlocked, our walls can be broken down, and our actions can be counted. But this is no easy task. In order to do this, we'll have to be valiant in our efforts to confront three big fears. One fear that many of us face is the fear of our own voice. Who knows what the number one fear is across the globe for people, across cultures, religions, and places? Anyone? Public speaking, number one fear. Number two fear, death. The fear of unlocking one's voice is near and dear to my heart because it's something that I've struggled with and wrestled with my whole life. Growing up in Berkeley, California, I had a serious lisp, a speech impediment, where I had great trouble saying certain letter combinations, R's, S's, SH's, and DR's. And unfortunately, my parents, who are actually here with us today, named me Andrew with the DR front and center. Caused all sorts of problems because I couldn't even say my own name. It would always come out Andu. I couldn't get that DR right. And in the third grade, I changed my name from Andrew to Andy, which I could say a lot easier, and that's what it's been ever since. I went to speech therapy for many years growing up, and have spent a lot of time working to overcome my fears, develop my voice, and build the confidence that I actually had something to say. And think about that for a minute. My lisp literally changed my identity from Andrew to Andy. It defined who I was at the time in a very real way. And I carry that identity with me today. But it also did something else. It showed me that I had a choice between suffering in silence or building my voice. Now, it's not easy to build anything. A bicycle, a business. I know we got some entrepreneurs in the room. Much less your self-confidence. But by seizing that choice, by embracing my biggest fear and turning it into my biggest opportunity to evolve, I got to this podium today. One of the most powerful podiums in the world. And the reality is that I'm no different than any of you. You all have voices at least as powerful as my voice. And all it takes is a willingness to push past fear and trust that the world wants or at least needs to hear your voices. Another fear that is far too common today is the fear of one another. The fear of people who look different, who sound different, who pray to a different God, who come from a different place, or who are a member of a different political party. One of my heroes, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., famously said that people fail to get along because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they have not communicated with each other. And this couldn't be truer today. Fear of communicating with each other is leading to dangerous misperceptions and editorialized historical narratives that don't get broken down. It's leading to feelings of marginalization and disconnection for certain groups that can create greater openness to radicalization from ISIL and other extremist elements. It's leading to heightened racial and religious discrimination and tensions around the globe, even right here in the United States. I've seen this firsthand in my interactions with young Israelis and Palestinians, on travels to Clichy-sous-Bois on the outskirts of Paris, and Molenbeek on the outskirts of Brussels, and even right in my backyard of Washington, D.C., where fear and insecurity can prevent youth from connecting across the Anacostia River. But if we dig deep and start communicating with each other, then we can break down those walls between us, develop greater empathy for one another, and see the power and opportunity that exists in our diversity. Does anyone, real quick, does anybody in the room have a dollar bill, American dollar bill with them? If you do, take it out real quick. I won't take it from you, I promise. On the back of the dollar bill, above the eagle, you'll see a motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. And in this motto stems from the 13 American colonies and now the 50 American states that are bound together as a union as the United States of America. But E pluribus unum is not simply an American thing. It's a larger idea that we are more powerful when we connect with one another or combine efforts around a common goal to form a more perfect union in the American context or to tackle a shared challenge in the international one. And this takes me to my third fear, our third fear. And the third fear that many of us face is the fear of taking action. Overall, we're very ambitious as a global generation of young people. We see this ambition as we try to tackle 17 mammoth sustainable development goals and build a world that's more just, that's more fair, and that has greater equal opportunity. Yet, the enormity of the challenges that we're trying to tackle can sometimes feel daunting. And this can lead to hesitancy or inaction for fear of not being able to have a meaningful impact on the larger goal. However, it's important to recognize that our individual efforts in our individual campaigns regardless of the size and scope, can actually have great impact when linked together with other efforts of young people across the globe. Another hero of mine, Bobby Kennedy, in a 1966 speech at Cape Town University in South Africa to the National Union of South African Students at the height of the apartheid era, he talked about this idea of ripples of hope. Who knows that speech? Anyone familiar with that speech? Good. Bobby Kennedy said that it is from the numberless, diverse acts of courage and belief that human history is shaped. Each time a man or a woman stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, he or she sends out a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different centers of energy, those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. What Bobby Kennedy talked about in 1966, the power of ripples of hope and collective action, is as true today as it was then. The reality that singular voices and tiny acts of courage, when pulled together with the voices and collective acts of courage from others around the globe, can have a transformative effect on history as we know it. Folks, we have 4 billion young voices around the globe below the age of 35. So there are a lot of potential ripples to build a current with. In closing, let's commit ourselves to tackling our fears head on. The fear of our own voice, the fear of each other, and the fear of taking action on the issues that we care about, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the localized challenges in all of our communities and countries, and the building of a world with more justice, more fairness, and more equality of opportunity. Let's speak up, because it's not how your voice sounds that matters, it's what you say with it, and what you argue for that really counts. Let's build bridges, because real, lasting global change doesn't happen simply among like-minded nations. It happens between countries and communities in conflict. And it happens when they realize, as many others have for thousands of years, that we're a lot more similar than we think. And finally, let's take action. Because it's not enough to complain to your friends or simply like something on Facebook. And it's not enough to shake our heads and say nothing can be done. We need to get in the arena. We need to mix things up. And we have to be willing to get engaged in the political process. Friends, it is time for us to overcome any fears and insecurities that we may have. Send forth those ripples of hope from all of our corners of the globe and build them into a current of youth activism. And it's time to do this together. E pluribus unum, out of many one, out of 4 billion strong young voices around the globe, one goal of being fearless to shape the world as it could be. Thank you so much for your time.